how are you? I just did an entire reaction to the Tall Girl movie, and my phone apparently stopped recording right in the middle of it. So I'm not gonna go through that entire fucking thing again. So I'm just gonna tell you what I hate about this fucking movie. Oh God. All right, so hi. If you don't know me, my name is Rachel. Most of you probably are subscribed to my channel, but whenever I put the words tall girl in my fucking titles, more people come and watch the fucking thing. So, I have now seen the entire Tall Girl movie on Netflix 3 times. I watched it twice yesterday and once today while I was reacting to it. And I have some thoughts about it, which I'm going to share with you. Here's a forewarning for anybody who is new here. I curse, okay? Curse words are the spice of language, and I really like spicy shit. So if you're uncomfortable with hearing my potty mouth, I would just click off this video because there are going to be lots of F-bombs and just things that'll make you uncomfortable because I just don't care. I don't care if it's unladylike, I like it, whatever. So there's your warning about that. Also, I am 6'1", which is the same height that the lead actress in this movie, Jodie, is supposed to be. And I mean, she's 6'1" in real life too. I looked her up. She's 17 years old. I thought she was older than that, but that comes with the territory of being tall. Like, everybody always thought that I was older than I was. Now it's evened out because I'm 27 and I look like a fucking 27-year-old, which is what I've looked like my entire life. So yeah, she's supposed to be 6'1", but the way that they portray her in the movie, like the camera angles and stuff, like she's basically the only tall person in the town besides this club of tall people called the Tip Toppers, which there are 23 members. So there are 24 tall people in total in this entire town. And the Tip Toppers theme song is incredibly annoying. So yeah, she is supposed to be 6'1", but she is shown like so much taller than everybody else in the fucking, like, everybody's like 5 feet tall and under. There are no other tall people in her school. I guess they don't have a basketball team, and she's the only fucking tall freak that there is. So that's unrealistic, number one. Within the first like 10 minutes of the movie, they mention her wearing a size 13 in men's shoes about 3 or 4 times. She's got big feet because she's tall. And she dresses in this like janitorial looking jumpsuit because I guess there's no clothes that fit tall girls. Like, I get it. It's hard to find jeans that go all the way down to your ankle, but they exist. And especially somebody as skinny as her, like, it's not going to be hard for her to actually find jeans that fit her. But even then, you don't have to fucking wear a janitorial jumpsuit. It's just a little bit fucking ridiculous. So in the beginning, you get introduced to her parents, which is Angela from The Office, and this actor who I don't know, but I really don't like his face, and he annoys me in whatever role he plays. So he's her father. They show this whole fucking like backstory of her being tall, and the dad just has like this fucking problem with it. He is so concerned about her being tall, and they show when she's 3 years old and 4 feet tall, and they're at this pediatric doctor, whatever, and the dad is asking if there's some sort of a hormone that they could give her to stunt her growth because she's 3 years old and 4 feet tall. And the little girl that they have playing her, she looks like she's probably like 7 years old, and they purposefully got little furniture that is way smaller, that's for like a teeny tiny little kid, to make her look like even more of like this massive fucking child. And then they go through where she every single year she's standing in the back in the pictures at school because she's like towering over everybody, which it looks like she's just standing on like a platform or something. And yeah, in like 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, even like through the first couple of years of high school, all the guys like in my class were little shrimpies. Like, they don't grow until later. The girls mature faster. And like a lot of my guy friends were like 5 feet nothing, and then junior senior year of high school fucking shot up like a weed to 6'4". Like, yeah, your body, you're going through a change. You change in body. It's, you know, you're growing, you're getting tall, but the boys don't mature until later. And so that's fucking normal, okay? And they introduce Kimmy, which is the mean girl, which I don't understand why the fuck people insist on putting bitches like this into stories. Like I probably went to 6 different schools in 2 different states, and I never once encountered a bitch like this. Like, she's the mean girl, she's the popular girl, she's walking down the hallway, just fucking, being mean. And she has her eyes on the foreign exchange student, Stig, who is this tall, blonde, German-looking motherfucker. He's Swedish. This is tall, blonde, Swedish motherfucker. And, everybody wants to be with him because he's this hot blonde guy, whatever. Like, the first time he walks into the classroom, fucking goes to the chalkboard after the light and the wind is like all around him and everybody's like swooning over him, goes to the chalkboard where there's like a molecule all written out in like the letters and stuff, and it's like, oh, what's that molecule? And he just like writes it on the board what it is, and then like stands in front of the class, like smiles at everybody, and it's like, why? And then her and Farida are standing by the locker, and she's like, I don't understand why he doesn't look at me. The only person that I want to look at me doesn't. And Farida's like, he's from a land of fucking giants, bitch. Like, he's from Sweden. You're just another fucking bitch to him. And I'm like, in my head, yes, that makes sense, but also it doesn't, because she is apparently the only other tall person in that entire school. So you would think that the other tall person would be like, oh shit, look, another tall person. Yo, what's up? Like, you stand out, because all these motherfuckers are... So yeah, they go through this whole fucking thing where Jody and Farida are sitting in the lunchroom, and their lunchroom is really weird. Like, they have all like tons of tables. Jody and Farida and Jack like sit at their own little table, and then the popular fucking crowd, Kimmy and all her little minions, sit directly across at this table. There's like no other tables in between, but it's all the way across the fucking place. Whatever. But normally that's where they sit, but Stig is sitting there all by himself. All the fuck alone, playing with green beans. Like, he's sitting by himself, and then all of a sudden a swarm of bitches is at the table. Kimmy, and then like all the pretty girls from the other groups, which there are some that look kind of busted, but whatever. And Kimmy just sits there, and like they're all like trying to flirt with him, and Kimmy sits there and just stares each bitch down until they fucking get up and leave, and then she's the only one left. So let me back up. The first time that Kimmy talks to Stig is in the fucking hallway at the lockers, where Jody is sitting there like, he doesn't even see me, and Kimmy walks up and speaks to him in Swedish, because she's just multilingual as fuck. And he's like, oh my god, you speak Swedish? And she's like, I picked it up when I was traveling abroad. And he's like, oh, cool, whatever. And she's like, how are you liking America? And he's like, I like America very much. Like, he's the only person in this whole fucking place that has an accent. They are in New Orleans. Narlands. They're in Narlands, and ain't not a one single motherfucker in that place has a draw. They speak very clearly and properly, which I don't know if you've ever met anybody from New Orleans, but they have at least a little bit of a draw, but that, whatever. Stig is the only one with a fucking accent, so that's the first time they meet. She speaks to him in his fucking native tongue, and then when she's done staring all the bitches down at the lunch table, she asks him what class he's headed to, and he says Spanish, and so she fucking speaks to him in Spanish and says, I can walk you to your class if you'd like, and he's like, let me guess, you picked it up you picked Spanish up traveling abroad in Barcelona. And she goes, yes, in Barcelona. I fucking hate that so much. Like, people who are from Barcelona and say Barcelona like that, that's perfectly fine. But bitch, if you visit there and you're just like, Barcelona, for some reason makes me want to punch you. I don't know why either. I'm sorry, okay? Jody's at home, and they do that prank call that you saw in the trailer where Snapper, Dipper, whatever the fuck his name is, pretends to be Stig, and she's like, let's face it, Jody, you're the tall girl, whatever. And so it's the next day, and she's fucking embarrassed, and she's walking down the hall, and she turns one way, and Dipper, whatever the fuck his name is walking, so she turns and walks the other way, and Kimmy and her popular nerdy friend with the glasses are walking the other way, and so she tries to blend into the fucking wall. And she goes into a room, which just happens to be the same room that Stig is in. Like, there are no fucking rules in this whole fucking universe that they're in. Like, the parents don't give a shit about where they are. The kids are out late as shit, going over to each other's houses. And, like, the teachers are, like, nowhere to be seen except for the first teacher that's like, we have a foreign exchange student. Then we never see another teacher until the end of the movie when the principal is, like, at the dance. Jody and Stig are in the drama room, I guess. It's all dark and like blue and mysterious, and he's at a piano and he's like being bad at the piano, and she is good at the piano, and so she tells him to relax his hands, and then he's better at the piano, and then they compare hand sizes, and he's like, oh wow, yeah, you do have big hands, and then they're like all cuddly on the piano, and then Kimmy comes in and she's like, you were supposed to walk me to class, where were you? And then Stig is like, oh, let me introduce you to my girlfriend, this is Kimmy. And Jody's like, girlfriend? And Kimmy's like, yeah, girlfriend, we've made it a fish. She shortened official to a fish. And I hate it. I just absolutely hate it. And then they're like in art class and everybody else has like an easel and they're like painting and stuff. But Stig and Kimmy are reenacting the scene from Ghost. So he's like got this clay pot and she's like standing right next to him and she's got her hand. His hand is in the clay pot like this and her hand is on top of his hand, just rubbing his hand like this. Not the clay, just rubbing his fucking hand like this. And it's so fucking like uncomfortable and like sexual. And where is the teacher who is like, they're at the front of the class with this fucking pot doing this shit. And the teacher is not gonna be like, hey, fucking cut that out. Like, that, what the fuck are you doing? No, like, they're just like fucking, they're hand fucking each other. And then like they're all in the same fucking class. So it's Kimmy and Stig on the little clay pot. Jody's just sitting at a desk like watching them. And then behind her is Jack and Liz. Liz is the popular nerdy girl that's friends with Kimmy, who has glasses just for the effect of her being quirky and nerdy. And she looks over at Jack's painting. She's like, I've been looking at your painting for weeks. I gotta say, you're really talented. And she starts naming all these artists and then they like start flirting back and forth. And you're like, oh, good. Jack is gonna, you know, go with this girl. And like, they actually found a love interest for him. Turns out they're both like gluten-free. Like later in the movie, Jack is like standing outside at his bike eating gluteos. And Liz walks up and she's like, oh my God, are you seriously eating gluteos? Those taste like I almost said stardust. This tastes like sawdust. And he's like, well, I can't have gluten, so, you know, a kid's got a snack. And then she's like, here, try this. And she pulls this fucking gluten-free cookie out of her backpack that's apparently fucking amazing. And he's like, oh my God, you're gluten-free. And she's like, since 2012, baby. And now they're dating. And Jack is part of the fucking popular crowd. And he, I'm way ahead of myself here. But, you know, turns out that Stig actually is going to be staying at Jack's house. Jack's mother, who is black for some reason, there's nothing wrong with being black, but they just never explain it, that like Jack does not look any sort of mixed. They never say if he's adopted or not. It's just his black mom. And Stig is in the car and he's like, hey, what's up? And they're like, oh, he's staying with us. And Jack's all freaking out about it. And his mom's like, with all the crazy shit going on, like we need to show him America. And Jack makes the funniest joke of the entire fucking movie, which is, well, if we really want him to experience America, let's just kick him out. That's the most American thing that we could do. And I was like, damn, that was fucking funny. Jack's house is this huge, like all the houses in this movie are fucking humongous and just like, I don't know what their parents do, but they must make like 7 figures because their houses are fucking extravagant. But Jack and Stig are sharing a room and literally sleeping in bunk beds. Because, you know, they have to establish the plot while the two are sleeping, and Stig is like confessing his love for Yodi, to Jack, who is in love with Jody. I just need to go back real quick because I just remembered Yodi. So the main character's name is Jody. Whenever they're like in the piano room, like playing piano or whatever, like Stig is like, I'm Stig, what's your name or whatever? And she's like, Jody. And he goes, oh, Yodi. Like, just because he's Swedish, he can't say her name properly as Jody. He literally calls her Yodi the entire fucking movie. And I hate it. I fucking hate it so much. So there's a bunch of just unnecessary shit composition that happens that just like, it seems like they were trying to get in a lot more storylines than they had time for. Like, I think that it would have done better as a series, like Degrassi or something, because they just only had an hour and 42 minutes to like tie all these loose ends up. And oh, it's just insane. Her sister's fucking crazy. Her sister is a whack job. She's supposed to be in community college, and she's like the perfect hot girl who like didn't get the tall gene, but she got allergies. That's the part of the genetic lottery that she lost, was she has the allergies. But other than that, she's hot as shit. Like, she's the hottest bitch, but she's fucking psycho, and her talent is like throwing knives. And she like goes berserk whenever Jody is like talking to her about the boy, and she's like, oh my god, tell me all about it. And then she like says he's an exchange student, and this bitch flips out and starts talking about how it's like bad to go for the exchange student because all these girls will be flocking around him and there's lots of exposure. And then she like, I don't know, it's fucking weird. Like, she trips out. She trips the fuck out. The whole time she's like helping like to make her over and stuff. So Jody, they have makeup on her, obviously, because everybody in fucking movies wears like makeup, but they make it look like she's not wearing makeup. So it's foundation, and then she doesn't have anything else on. And whatever foundation she's wearing, like, looks fucking gorgeous. And then when they make her over, they switch foundations or something, and the creases on her forehead, like her face looks super dry, and the creases on her forehead are super exaggerated. And but now she's got her hair down, and you know, she's wearing lipstick and stuff, and so this is her makeover. And the mean guy, Stipper, Dipper, whatever the fuck his name, Snipper Snapper, who played the joke on her, now like fucking loves her and like has this crush on her because she's all hot now. And like Kimmy is like sitting with Stipper at lunch, and they're like, she's like looking over at Kimmy, and she's like, what does she think she's doing? Like, just because she puts on makeup and lets her hair down doesn't make her any less ugly. And then she's like talking to Stipper, and she's like, do you think it makes her less ugly? And then he's like, I think she's hot, whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like at this fucking parade that's going on in the street, which is the only New Orleans-ish thing to happen, is there just being music and beads and partying and stuff in the street. It's the homecoming parade. The high school band is just marching through the street, and everybody's out in the street dancing, whatever. And so Jody and Farida are talking, and then Farida goes to like dance with the band or whatever. And while she's gone, Kimmy comes up and is like, we need to talk about somebody who like has a crush on you or whatever. And she says that Stibber likes her, and that they're all going to an escape room on Friday night. And so Jody should come along. And she at first is like, why should I believe you? Like, you've been mean to me my whole life, whatever. And which she has. In all of the flashbacks, they showed Kimmy just being an absolute little twat to her, even in kindergarten. Like, what the fuck? But then she like believes her for some reason, and so she's gonna go to this escape room. Oh, and Farida comes back, and she's like, why were you talking to Kimmy? And she's like, she invited me to hang out on Friday night. And Farida's like, well, we have plans on Friday night, we have tickets. And Jody's like, well, fucking find somebody else to go. And then Farida gets all mad, and then we don't talk to her again until the very last scene of the movie. They had their falling out right there. And Jody goes to this escape room. So it's Jody and Stipper, Snipper, whatever the fuck his name, Jack and Liz, and Kimmy and Stig. And they're going to this escape room. They walk into this elaborate fucking voodoo house. This character comes out to like explain the situation. Kimmy's a total cunt and is like, yeah, we're not newbies. Like, just get to it. And he's like, oh, whatever. And he leaves the room, and they start the escape room. They plan that they're going to have a party at Jack's house. So they set that scene up, whatever. Then they do this whole fucking montage where they're like in the escape room finding all these clues, and then it cuts back to normal where they're like coming out of a room in the escape room, and there's like a room with 3 couches, and Kimmy's like, I'm tired, let's take a break. And then Liz is like, but we only have 12 minutes left. And she's like, it's plenty of time, we just need to take a break. And so she sits down with Stig on on one couch. Liz and Jack sit down on another couch, and Snipper, Snapper, and Jody sit down on the third couch, and everybody starts fucking kissing each other. And the whole time they're making out, fucking Stig is opening his eyes and looking at Jody, and Jody like literally stops kissing Snapper and turns back to look at Stig. And then Kimmy gets mad that Stig is looking at Jody, and like and then Jody's like, I can't do this, I'm leaving. And she gets up and she goes and tries to fucking open a door, which you can clearly see through the window has a brick wall behind it. And she opens the door, and there's a brick wall, and she's like, oh, I can't get out. And then she goes to try another door, and it's is fucking locked because it's an escape room. And Kimmy's like, if you're gonna leave, then just leave. And then Jody goes, I'm trying. And then it just cuts to another fucking scene. And like at some point, Jody and Stig talk about their kiss. Oh, because they kissed. Fuck. Before all this happened, they fucking kissed. So it was like after the scene where they did the piano thing and they established that Kimmy and Stig are boyfriend and girlfriend now. Stig calls Stig calls Jody, and Jody answers the phone and automatically thinks that it's Schnipper Schnapper fucking making fun of her, and she goes off saying that she's gonna like step on his testicles or whatever. And then it's quiet for a minute and she's like, oh my god, this is actually Stig. And like, he doesn't know about the prank call that happened, so why he's so cool with what just transpired, I don't fucking understand. Because he's just like, yeah, it's me. And he invites her over. It is nighttime. It has got to be like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. He invites Jody over to Jack's house to watch a musical because they bonded over musicals or whatever in the piano room. And she gets all dressed up and she goes over. There are no parents in this entire fucking thing. I don't know where the parents are, okay? She goes over to this boy's house late at fucking night, all dressed up to go watch this fucking movie. Jack is there, obviously, because it's his fucking house. So Jody and Stig are sitting on the couch, like super like cuddly, close up together, even though they just established that Kimmy and Stig are boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're watching this movie. And fucking Jack walks in and stands in front of the movie and goes, oh, are you watching this? And then like goes to the kitchen and like loudly gets chips and then walks back in front of the fucking TV and drops the chips on the floor and like, oh, I forgot salsa, goes back to the kitchen. And then Stig invites Jack to come watch the movie with him, and Jack goes and sits directly on the middle of their laps so that they have to fucking separate. Ha ha ha. Didn't see that fucking coming. And then it literally cuts to now Stig and Jody are on this fucking trolley in the middle of the night. There's nobody the fuck else on this trolley. I don't know why the fuck these parents aren't monitoring their children like where they are, but they're on this trolley all the fuck alone at night, and they like have this whole thing with their knees like touching, and then they end up like sitting on the same side, and she does that whole thing about when you're a tall girl, it's all anybody sees, and he's like, it's not all I see. And then they fucking kiss, and then Jody goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And he goes, I did, and fucking kisses her again. And she asks like where his girlfriend is, and he's like, oh, she's at some party or something. Like, so he understands that he's cheating on Kimmy. He's a scumbag. And then they say that they're not gonna like talk about the kiss, and then Stig is like confessing all of this shit that they kissed and stuff to Jack that same night. Like, this night goes on forever. Like, they're in the bunk beds, Jack is on the top bunk bed, Stig is on the bottom, and Stig is like, yeah, we kissed, and I don't know what to do. So Jack comes down and he's offering advice, and he basically sabotages them because he loves Jody, and it's like, you know what, you should just quit cold turkey and just focus on your relationship with Kimmy, whatever. And so the next day at lunch, Jody's telling Farida about what happened, and so she expects that like Stig is gonna come like sit with her because he's gonna like break up with Kimmy or whatever. Stig walks into the fucking lunchroom, looks at Jody, looks at Kimmy, goes and sits with Kimmy, then invites Jack over to sit with all of them. So like Jack with his fucking milk crate was going to go sit with Jody and fucking Farida, and Stig is like, oh, come over here. And he like introduces Jack to all of the people that have literally gone to school with him his entire fucking life. And he hangs out with the tall girl that everybody's weirdly obsessed with and carries a milk crate around. So why he has to introduce Jack to them, like they don't know who the weird milk crate kid is that's friends with the giraffe, I don't fucking know, whatever. But he's a part of the popular crowd now, and Jack does a fucking impression of Gordon Ramsay, and now he hangs out with a popular crowd. Boom. And then we get to the escape room shit. Okay, cool. I can't tell things in order. Like, I'm sorry. This movie is not going to be in order from the way I'm telling it. So then after the escape room, it cuts to like Jack and Jody having some sort of a fucking argument. He runs into the car on his bicycle, and then they both go back to his house, and Stig is there. And that's when Stig and Jody are like, we're not going to talk about the kiss anymore. And then a bunch of awkward shit happens. And Stig ends up like telling Jody that he's like, you know, that plan that we made not to talk about it, well, like, I want to talk about it. And he says that he's going to break up with Kimmy so that he can be with Jody. And Jody invites him to be her +1 to her sister's pageant, her psycho fucking knife throwing ass sister's pageant. And so he goes, okay, but only if you come to the homecoming dance with me as my date. And she's like, oh my God, yes, like, okay. Or maybe it was to the party. I don't know. It was either to the party or to the homecoming dance as his date. And so they're sitting at the pageant. It's mom, dad, and Jody and an empty seat. And they're like talking about how they're going to embarrass her. And the pageant starts, and it's been started for 30 minutes. He's not here. Jody texts him and is like, the pageant started 30 minutes ago. Where are you? Gets no fucking answer. At some point during the fucking pageant, when her sister is like giving her speech, they're like asking the, you know, questions and the world peace, whatever. She literally stops in the middle of what she's saying because she sees that the seat next to Jody is empty. And she's like, where is he? And Jody's like, I don't know. And then she finishes her speech and she won the pageant, apparently. I don't, like, all of it just happens too fucking fast. And you're like, what the fuck? And so then Jody goes to Jack's party after the pageant and is like fucking confronts him, and he's like, let me explain. I've been getting the party ready with Jack all day, and you know, I lost track of time. And she's like, you probably didn't even talk to Kimmy, did you? And he's like, I wanted to, but she kept getting pulled into conversations. And she's like, you were never gonna break up with her anyways. And she fucking storms out, and Kimmy like heard this whole fucking thing. And Jody's sad again at home, being sad, whatever. And then it cuts to the next morning. Jody is in her bed asleep. Jack comes into her room with a present and touches her hair after going through all of her shit. Touches her hair while she's sleeping, and she fucking karate chops him in the throat. He's like, when did you learn karate? Which is whatever the fuck. And he has a black eye. We don't get to know why he has a black eye until a little bit later. He just says things got a little bit out of control at the party last night. And then he gives her this present, which is some fucking platform ass high heels. Like, the platform on it is this big, and then the heel is like 6 or 7 fucking inches. He got it from a drag store. It's completely like studded and like stripper heels, basically. And he gives those to her, tells her this romantic story about, well, you got to keep the high heels because what if one day, you know, you meet a guy who's taller than you and he wants to go on a date and you're like, oh, I really want to wear my heels, but then I don't have them. Man, I really should have kept those heels. And like, that's his little romantic story. It's weird, whatever. And then later, she is laying upside down on her bed like a quirky girl reading her book. And she gets a text from somebody that she doesn't know. It just says unknown on the screen. She's like, hey, I thought you might want to see this. And it's a video. And the video is Liz, the quirky, nerdy girl, you know, in the popular group that Jack was dating, who she asked him to the homecoming dance. And then she was like, you want to go with me, right? And he was like, I do, but I don't. I'm in love with somebody else. She's like, I know. And then they like break up, but it's like amicable. I don't fucking know. It's fucking weird. And so this video is her going, hey, Dunkelman, I wanted to document this party so that you would never throw another party again because look at this. And it's all crazy. And she somehow gets perfect audio of what's happening across the loud ass party, which is Kimmy confronting Stig about what Jody and Stig were talking about earlier. Stig starts saying that that Jody confessed her love for him and that he was just messing with her and like stood her up or whatever and was just like playing a joke, and like very publicly and loudly, and like everybody's like watching and listening to him. And then Snipper that was in love with Jody after her makeover was like, oh my god, that's so lame or whatever, and like, I'm definitely not in love with Jody, but like super awkward. And then Jack comes in and like tries to tackle Stig, and then Stig is like, yo man, what's going on? And Jack has this whole like defending your honor speech to fucking Stig about Jody and how, you know, he confessed his love to him at night, but he's out here making fun of her, whatever. And then he says that Jody is cooler than everybody there combined, and Snapper goes, and she's also taller than everybody here combined. And then Jack punches him, and then Snapper punches him in the face, and that's how he got the black eye, defending Jody's honor. So Jody decides, well, I'm gonna go to the fucking homecoming dance. She starts getting ready for the homecoming dance, cuts to the homecoming dance. She's not there. We don't see her until after King and Queen are crowned. Jodie's psycho sister is there, and she's the one that's like announcing king and queen for some fucking reason, and she's like making weird eyes at the principal, and like there's this whole uncomfortable thing going on, whatever. Kimmy and Stig win homecoming king and queen, and there's this whole fucking, you know, ordeal about it, and then they're dancing after they're crowned, and Stig is like, I can't do this anymore, and Kimmy's like, can't do what? And he's like, this, and takes off the crown, and he's like, and this, and she's like, why? It's because you like Jodie, isn't it? And she's like, why do you like her? Like, what do you see at her? And then Jodie fucking walks in, just perfect fucking timing, in her weird ass blue ass pantsuit with this weird ass collar, and her hair's all fucking crazy, and she's wearing the heels. She's wearing the She fucking walks in, the whole room goes silent. She walks through the fucking crowd, beelines for the fucking stage, gets up on the stage and makes this speech that no one fucking asked for about how you may know me as the tall girl, the giraffe that you all make fun of, whatever. Well, keep making fun of me and asking me how the weather's up here because I can take it. But like, this the speech that we don't fucking need. Beforehand, they had showed a couple of clips of Farida just dancing by her fucking self. And then we, you know, during the speech, Jodie goes, and I've been a bad friend, and like looks at Farida, and then all of a sudden they're fucking friends again. And, like, that's how that got resolved. And so she got all dressed up for the homecoming dance. She missed most of the dance, goes up and makes this weird ass fucking speech. Everybody fucking cheers and starts chanting, Jodie, Jodie. She walks down and says, I gotta go. And she fucking walks out. She was in there for all of 5 fucking minutes, and while she's walking out, she's alone walking out of the fucking school, and Stig is running after her. And he's like, Jodie, wait, I'm so sorry. Jodie, wait, I'm so sorry. I want to start over. And Jodie's like, I want to start over too, but not with you, bitch. And fucking walks out. And she like puts on her size 13 Nikes and has her high heels in her hand, and she goes to Jack's house. Jack is sitting out on his front porch with his milk crate. He has this milk crate the whole fucking movie. It's with him always. She walks up, she starts talking about how, you know, why didn't you tell me why you really got your black eye? And all of a sudden now she like wants to fuck him. And she wants him to be his boyfriend. And he's like, oh, so you revised your boyfriend list, and so do I do better now? And she's like, yeah, you check all the boxes, whatever. And she's like, but the one thing I can't get behind is what the fuck is up with this milk crate? Like, why the fuck do you carry this fucking milk crate around with you? And he's like, because I knew one day that I would need it. And he fucking takes that shit, puts it down, and stands on it. So now that he's taller than her, so that they can kiss with him taller than her, and they fucking kiss, and his hands are on her ribs and her hands are straight down by her side, and then it pans up to the fucking sky and she fucking is saying some inspirational shit about loving yourself and, you know, even the things you can't change about yourself, which is all good, well and good, but like, what? And that's how the fucking movie ends. That's how it ends. I didn't like it. I didn't like the movie at all, okay? Like, the acting was good. I can't really stand when I watch things and like the actors are super cheesy, and like it just takes me out of it when I'm like, I know you're acting. Like, they did a good job with the casting, and like they all delivered their lines really well, and the production value was good. But the story fucking sucked. Like, that is not at all, in my experience anyways, what it's like to be a tall girl. So those are my thoughts on this fucking movie. If you have Netflix, fucking spend an hour and 42 minutes of your life and watch it. You know, it's not the worst movie that ever existed, but it just is very fictional and unrealistic. So those are my thoughts on this movie. And yeah, I probably am not going to have a video next week because I'm going out of town, and I don't have any like, I don't have a compilation of Snapchats to post for you. Don't have that much saved up yet. But, you know, you add me on Snapchat if you want to keep up with me next week, because I'm going to probably be Snapchatting while I'm getting my tattoos and stuff, because I'm going to Dallas to meet my friend Jenna. We're getting tattoos for my younger brother that passed away 3 years ago now. Anyways, that has been my frustration. I hate it. If you liked it, cool. If your experience was very similar to this bitch, you know, being tall. Sorry that people said that shit to you. I went to a lot of different schools and I've been tall like this since I was 12. And that, like, people asked me if I was the teacher. People told me to act my age, but nobody fucking told me. Like, they never fucking played pranks on me where they were like, face it, you're the tall girl, and like we're assholes and asking me how the weather is up there. Like that just doesn't fucking happen. People people say that I'm tall. Like, it happens. Like, the other day the cleaning lady was done with the apartment and she came back to get all checked out, and so I got up and she was like, oh, you're very tall. And I'm like, yeah. That's about the extent of my interaction with people commenting on my height. I normally post on Tuesdays. Probably won't next week, like I just said, but fucking subscribe and come back. Maybe I'm a reaction channel now. I don't know. If there's other shit that you want me to react to, let me know. So yeah, just let me know shit that you want me to react to, because I do like making these. But yeah, okay, let me see you later. Bye. Fuck. Excuse me, sir? What are you boofing at right now? What are you boofing at, Bubba? There's nothing out there but rain. Come here, weirdo. Come sit with me. I gave him a haircut. That's why he looks strange, like a rat. And like it's not professionally groomed, because I cut all of his hair off because he was looking crazy. Bubba, what are you doing? Are you good? Are you good, bro? Are you just gonna sit there and boof out the window? Okay. Anyways,